Hi everyone, welcome. What you see here is my tracking spreadsheet. It's where I keep a lot of information about all my different worm bins that I've got active. And today, the one I'm thinking of feeding is one that's not been fed in 18 days. It's a 59-day-old system, fed 5 times so far. It was fed pear, and I know that I'm not going to see any leftovers when we go in there. A couple of my other systems that I checked in on over the past couple days were fed with that same pear. No sign of leftovers, and at this point, this bin is the last of those, and oddly enough, I'm going to be feeding them even more pear today. Well, this one bin at least. I've got one frozen pear left, and it's not much of a feeding, and the reason I'm going kind of light on feeding that system is because I'd like to pair it up. Yeah, right, pear. After feeding it pear today, I'm going to go a few days up until the point where the other bin that I want to pair it up with is ready for a feeding. So it was 7 days since it was last fed, so maybe in another, who knows, 3, 5, 7 days. We'll check back in on that other system, and at that time we'll bring both systems up and start treating them as a kind of a sister bin dual setup. Bring them out together. It's always more interesting to see two systems that are being managed very similar to each other side by side. Allows for opportunities to test different things, or at least have a sort of a baseline on what to expect from each system relative to each other, and can also help with troubleshooting if things go awry. So that's my game plan, but for today it's only a single pair for this one system that was last fed 18 days ago. Next time we check in on it, it'll be paired up with another sister bin. So let's get down to the wormery and get this taken care of. The system we're checking in on is this one, and the one we'll be pairing it up with is the one that you see right next to it. But like I said, it was only fed 7 days ago. We're going to let this one ride a little bit longer. We're going to give this one just a little bit to tie it over till the next time, and then we'll start pairing these up together. And in the meantime, here's the pear that I promised, fresh from the freezer. You can already see the humidity and condensation collecting on it. So let's get this system up on the bench, see how it's doing, give it its pear, we'll be done. Yeah, like I said, after 18 days since its last feeding of pretty much pear only, I'm not expecting many leftovers, but I'm not guaranteeing that that's what we're going to find. Who knows? Sometimes you expect one thing and you find something completely different. So I'm going to set this aside so we can start uncovering things here. On my younger bins, I typically like to keep the plastic coverings on, at least until I start to sense that the content of the bin is beginning to become mostly castings, which can hang on to their own moisture, but in the meantime, until that happens, bins are generally prone to drying out really rapidly, which is what I'm trying to prevent here. Let me get a glove on. Be right back. Well, to supplement that pear, I got a couple other things we can include. I got my prepared bedding. That's always a nice thing to include with the feeding. And I've got my grit, pulverized eggshell in my case. And I've also got my worm chow. So if it looks like putting that pear in all by itself seems like maybe a little bit too little, we can always drop in a little bit of extra food in the form of worm chow. And then they'll have a little bit extra to nibble on. But I don't know, we'll see. We'll have to drop in that pear and see what it looks like. Lots of these large chunks you see me dislodging and piling up over here are various bits of cardboard and paper, different things that I believe the bin was probably originally built with, or maybe we just went with really large bits of bedding when we were feeding recently. And in a system like this, we've got lots of time. I think we're still less than 2 months old here. We've definitely got some activity, and I'm already being made a fibber here. Not a fibber, but my assumption on where this pear would be by now is completely shattered. Maybe the system just doesn't have quite as many worms as the other systems that got fed pear last time have. So I really didn't expect to find anything after 2.5 weeks, just based on what I saw in some of my other systems where there was just no signs of any leftover pear. But here we're clearly seeing some. I'm just wondering, maybe we just gave them a lot more here. Maybe there was a different type of pear. I don't know. Doesn't matter so much. Maybe that's not even pear. Maybe that's apple. Because I think we did actually put something in here prior to the pear. Prior to the last feeding of pear, I believe the previous feeding had been one slow composting item, that we know of is the avocado. And even though the innards of the avocado might go pretty quick, I definitely consider it slow because of the shell in the pit. There was even another avocado pit, so I'm beginning to think that the pear did actually get eaten, and that what we're seeing there is actually leftover apple, not pear. So, my mistake. I might go back and just skim through the videos from previous feedings of this bin, but it's sort of coming back to me, and I believe that that's the case. It would be kind of hard to believe that there would still be leftovers of that pear, that same exact pear that I got from my mom that was fed to multiple other systems. If there were still leftovers of that here, I'd be a little bit suspicious of something going awry, and I think I'm even starting to smell the scent of apple. Is this how you're taught in chemistry class, how to take a whiff of something? Never stick your nose straight into it, otherwise you could end up on the floor. You could just either pass out or just get hit by it so hard that you end up dropping to your knees. Well, that's the safe way to take a whiff of something. Just sort of send it over to your nose. Don't put your nose in the middle of it. But I didn't really, I don't know, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if it was apple, pear. It could have been grapefruit for all I know. So yeah, I don't think the scent really revealed what that was, but I'm gonna think that it's just part of our slow composting food item test that we did at one point, which definitely included the avocado, and as I remember included an apple too, and that's what I would have to guess is still kicking over here, and it will continue on for a while, that's for sure. So that's not going to prevent us from putting in today's pear. But since there is leftovers and good amounts of other stuff, and the knowledge of the fact that we'll be coming back in here pretty soon, within probably less than a week, or maybe about a week, or who knows when we'll be back in here, but it won't be long. We don't have to go too crazy with this feeding. We can kind of take care of them a little bit better next time we're in here with perhaps a larger feeding. But today it's really just going to be giving them this whole pear, and we can flank it with similar stuff so that it gives us a good visual on it. Next time we check in here, we'll leave this apple or whatever it is off to the side. I'm assuming it's apple at this point. And it'll be curious to see what happens to that pear. I'm assuming it's going to go quick because I've suddenly kind of got this thing in my head that says pear is a fast food, but I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Could it be that my observations in the other systems were so poor that I completely missed any leftovers of any of the pear that were fed there? Seems unlikely, but anything's possible. So I'm trying to just drum up some extra material from the outer edges here as we cover up so I can aerate it, check it out at the same time, make sure everything seems okay, and it does. Everything seems quite nice in here. Not a lot of castings yet, but they're getting there. And you know, I feel kind of chintzy because I've got my prepared bedding here, and we didn't even give them any of it when we piled in the old and new food. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea, at least to give them a little sprinkle of that too. Yeah, I know. We'll be back in here in a few days, but I did prep all these extra things such as supplementary bedding to give them, so we'll give them some. They might have heard me mentioning the worm chow, so now they're probably all expecting it. For me not to give it to them would be unfair. And for any worms that might need grit to help the digestion of their foods, let's give them that too. So that feels a lot more complete, a lot more proper, and hopefully the worms appreciate it. Alright, well, not a very high moisture feeding. That pear should, as it melts, give out a little bit of moisture, but the dry worm chow, the bedding, grit, those things, none of those brought moisture with them. So I'm glad we're covering with plastic here. The moisture content's good, but I wouldn't want it to dry. And I certainly don't think the feeding that they're getting now is going to add much moisture either. You know what we should do here? I think we should establish a feeding zone indicator. I've got this piece of, well, partial piece of paper towel here, kind of sitting around serving various purposes, but at this point it seemed like it was within reach, seemed like about the right size. So let's use this as our feeding zone indicator. I don't have a coffee filter. Usually we use coffee filters to show us where we last fed, but on this go around we're going to use a little piece of paper towel. Show us where we last fed. It'll be our feeding zone indicator. We fed right down the middle. Pear's right there. I don't think we'd have any trouble finding it next time, but kind of keeping to tradition, let's institute the use of feeding zone indicator. And at some point, maybe I'll get a coffee filter to replace that. Actually, probably pretty soon, because I got a feeling once moisture starts recirculating underneath this plastic and that piece of paper starts getting damp, the worms might be nibbling on that pretty soon. But we'll see. And we'll probably see pretty soon, because I think we'll be back in this bin pretty soon. So up until then, it's just a little bit of cleaning up and putting away I've got to take care of. And I'm not going to keep you around for that. That's boring. So before I go though really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.